Hey guys, it's been a while since we've done one of these, so let's get after Chapter 9. Make sure you are watching these because it's important. I give a lot of good information, a lot of stuff about the test on here. So we're going to look at these 5 areas tonight. Relatively quick in some of them, spend some more time on others. But we're going to start with the rise of mass politics. And the age of Jackson was about broadening the franchise. And his primary goal was to keep the entrenched Eastern elites from closing avenues of opportunity of the rising Western commercial classes. He wanted everybody to have a say, not just the powerful Eastern elites in New York and Boston and those areas. Politics were transformed, and the distribution of wealth changed little. Most states restricted voting and holding office to property holders or taxpayers before this period. But restrictions on the franchise either disappeared or were reduced in almost all the states. Politics, however, continued to be reserved for white males still. Women, blacks, Indians were excluded. In between 1824 and 1840, voter participation in presidential elections increased from only about 30% all the way up to about 80% of people were now voting in presidential elections. White men, that was. Citizenship replaced the property as a source of all political authority. There was a lot of ideas of patronage, and I want to get into that with you. About in the 18th century, the view of the political party was to give away the idea of the two-party system, and essentially to any democracy's success. Patronage and loyalty became the foundation of the party, with ideology becoming less important. 2 parties emerged: the Whig Party, who opposed Jackson, while his followers called themselves the Democrats and are now ancestors of the present Democratic Party. Remember, the Democratic Party is the oldest party in our nation. Jackson's Democratic Party embraced no coherent ideology, but simply looked to establish equality of opportunity to all rights, and all rights and to all citizens. He first tried to open up federal offices that had become dominated by the entrenched bureaucracy. He put in the spoils system, and he removed no more than 1/5 of all the federal officials. And in the spoils system, where he elected officials had the right to distribute patronage as a form of governmental positions. Jackson also pushed for a more open nominating process for any presidential election, resulting in the political convention and replacing all the congressional caucuses that were around at the time period. Moving on to the federal union and dealing with the theory of nullification. Nullification tomorrow, by the way, is going to be your prompt for the writing portion of your test. Not your test, but for your prompt in the morning, that's going to go into the writing category. And I can give you an idea that it's going to be something about, let me go back to this real quick. What were the ideas that John C. Calhoun wanted to get out of nullification? What factors gave rise to it? Things like that. So if you watched the video today, hopefully you paid attention to that and weren't sleeping like some people were in 5th hour. You should be fine with your prompts for tomorrow. But anyways, back to nullification. Jackson believed that the supremacy of the federal government, of which he was the head of, even though he wished to reduce its power. Early in his tenure, the dangerous theory surfaced of challenging federal supremacy with the view of the theory of nullification, which in this case, the theory which held that the state had the authority to decide whether federal law was unconstitutional. This was first articulated in 1798 with the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions. Its underlying foundation was the Union was a compact created by the states, and South Carolina threatened to declare in 1828 that the tariff of abominations null and void within its borders, and it did so. It did not do so, but set the stage for a later confrontation, which we might want to think about as the Civil War. Robert Hayne, a South Carolina senator, and Daniel Webster of Massachusetts, a Whig, enraged in the debate over the nature of the Union's states' rights in 1830. Hayne defended nullification, and later Jackson renounced nullification in a toast. "Our federal union," he said, "it must be preserved." His vice president, John C. Calhoun, replied, "The union next to our liberty is the most dear." In 1832, a new tariff came out that initiated the crisis concerning these opposing views, and the new tariff kept rates high, and South Carolina nullified it in the tariff of 1828, and Jackson believed nullification was treason, and in the 1833 Congress passed the Force Bill, which authorized the president to use military force to enforce any federal law that was created. And Henry Clay, back again, once again proposed a compromise of the tariff bill that would lower the rates gradually, and South Carolina finally rescinded its ordinance of nullification, but unwilling to cede the point, nullified the Force Bill, which had really no effect anyways, and in which Jackson actually ignored, because Jackson liked to ignore any law that he possibly could. Okay, moving on. The removal of the Indians. This is where Jackson just didn't really care about what the court said about Worcester versus Georgia, and he did not enforce it. And in 1835, minority of the Cherokees approved the exchange of the Georgia and the lands for $5 million and a reservation in the West, which is now what we would call present-day Oklahoma. Many others refused to leave, and in 1838 were forced to go to Indian Territory. As many as 1/8 died during the march, which was what became known as the Trail of Tears. Virtually all Southern Indians were removed except for the Seminole tribe in Florida. They stayed where they were, and it helped by escaped slaves led by Chief Osceola. The Seminoles defended their lands in the Seminole War beginning in 1835. And it frustrated by guerrilla tactics in the Everglades, the federal government withdrew in 1842, and many Seminoles had moved or were killed, but some still remained in the state of Florida. Overall, Indians exchanged 100 million acres of eastern lands for $68 million and 32 million acres on reservations west of the Mississippi River. The English attitudes regarding Indians from the colonial period persisted after independence, and with the separation being only accepted solution to most Caucasian Americans, even though successful assimilation had taken place among the Indians, the Spanish, and the French. So that's all we're going to do today. I'll do the Bank War, Jackson, the Bank War tomorrow with you, and his role in American politics. And then I'll have an awesome review for you online. Take care.